The Boston Red Sox have signed Alex Bregman, so where do the Cardinals and Nolan Arenado go from here? This is Locked On Cardinals.
You are Locked On Cardinals, your daily St. Louis Cardinals podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, Cardinals fans. I'm JD Hafford, and I'm your host for Locked On Cardinals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. You can follow me on Twitter, X, at JD Sports Radio. You can also follow the podcast at LO_Cardinals. I do want to thank those of you who make Locked On Cardinals your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. You can find us on YouTube. If you're going to go to the YouTube site, love that. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment, and hit the notification button so you know when new episodes are posted. This is a show serving Cardinal Nation and giving the best fans in baseball all of the info about the birds on the bat. So late on Wednesday night, the Alex Bregman situation finally came to an end. Yay! Hurrah! It finally happened. It was announced, though. It was good news for a second, and then it wasn't, right? That the free agent third baseman had agreed on a 3-year, $120 million deal with the Boston Red Sox. A monster deal, obviously, mathematically, because I'm awesome at math. $40 million per the deal, which has not been confirmed by the club, at least last time I checked. Includes an opt-out after 2025 and 26. There's deferred money as well, so a very Dodgers-like situation. Now, many, including myself, thought that the Red Sox were that was the best spot. That made the most sense for a deal between the Cardinals and Nolan Arenado, where which was the best fit, right? Out of all the teams that were left, what made the most sense? And it seemed like the Red Sox would be a really good spot. It seemed like it would make Nolan Arenado happy. It seemed like it would make the Red Sox happy. We did a whole episode yesterday with Gabby from Locked On Red Sox. And of course, just a few hours later, that episode becomes absolutely pointless because of this deal with Bregman. And real quick, I want to thank all of you who felt the need to point out how the episode didn't age well. Got that comment a few times. I appreciate that. Like I didn't know already. And like Gabby actually texted me last night when the deal was announced with Bregman, and she was like, wow, I'm glad we got that episode in before it all went down. It's a fluid situation. Things are going to keep changing. It happens. It is what it is. All right. I don't need you smart asses pointing it out that it didn't age well. I got it. I did drop a short, though, on YouTube when the news did break last night. So, just know that when things do change, which will happen throughout the season, and things go down, Locked On Cardinals will be there for you all season long. But thank you so much for all of you pointing out that, this didn't age well. But now the Sox have won the Bregman sweepstakes. All right, let's move on to what's going on now. Sox have won the Bregman sweepstakes, which Gabby was very excited about, by the way. But where do the Cardinals go from here? We don't care about Boston anymore. Moving on. No more talk about Boston. So what happens? What happens with the Cardinals now? One of the issues for this whole situation, which President of Baseball Operations, John Mozeliak, has acknowledged in his time with the media throughout the offseason, but also on Wednesday, was that it's not like he's had the whole league to shop Arenado to. There was a small list, and I believe it was only 6 teams that Nato gave them, at least it's been reported, that he'd be interested in going to. And so far, none of those teams have come to an agreement with the Cardinals that they're willing to pull the trigger on, plain and simple. I saw some fans writing things about, Mo's been dropping the ball and screwed up the whole situation. They messed around too long instead of getting a deal done. And my comeback to that, and this is your fault, by the way, you're making me stick up for John Mozeliak right here because I don't see how this was his fault. He had a deal done. He got a deal done right away when it all started to happen with the Houston Astros. Deal was done, ready to go. We don't know all the details about the trade. We don't know prospects that were involved or, maybe even guys off the Major League roster. We don't know. What we did learn from the reports were that the Cardinals were willing to take on something like 15 to 20 million of the remaining 64 million that Arenado is owed. He's actually owed 74, but the Rockies are still paying $10 million of that. And Arenado vetoed it. He said no, wasn't ready to make a decision on his future yet, was hoping that the market would, fluctuate a little bit. Maybe some teams that he preferred to go to over Houston would be interested and be willing to make a move for him. I'm sure his agent was calling these other teams like, hey, just heads up, Nolan Arenado kind of wants to be on your team. What do you think? And whatever reason, he invoked the no trade clause and blew it up. Said, no, I'm not prepared to make a decision like that yet. And so it didn't happen. And I don't understand how that's John Mozeliak's fault. I don't. Now, if you want to get upset at ownership for not willing to eat more of the money to facilitate a trade to move Nolan Arenado, you can do that. But Mo's only working under the budget that he's been given from his bosses, the DeWitts. And if they've said, hey, we're willing to eat this much, but that's it. We're not going any further than that. So see if you can find a deal. And no other team will do that. What do you want Mo to do? Now, I would think that they're going to try to continue to negotiate with some of these teams. Like they're going to continue to talk to him, I would assume. But the teams that might be interested in Arenado, they know what the amount of money is that the Cardinals are willing to eat. They know that the 15 to 20 is that's where they're comfortable at. That's their spot. They're going to try to negotiate for the Cardinals to eat more than that. They're going to want that amount to rise. It's in their team's best interest to get the best deal they can and not pay more of that contract. And most of those teams that are left don't need a third baseman. So these teams aren't desperate, where they're like, we got to do something. They don't. Boston was the one spot that really felt like, hey, they seem to really want to move Devers to DH, and they would love to get a pretty good defensive third baseman down there. They went with Bregman. They decided to pay a huge contract, Alex Bregman. So let's look at the remaining teams from Nato's list. And then we'll also have the teams that, we're still interested in Bregman and see what we can figure out here. The Tigers, Detroit Tigers, wanted Bregman. They were not on the list for Arenado. That was reported, though. The Cubs wanted Bregman. The Cardinals are not likely to make a deal in the division, and Nato did not have Chicago on his list either. The Astros were willing to bring Bregman back. We heard the talk that Altuve was like, I'll move to the outfield. I'll do whatever we need to do. And they'd already moved on. Remember, they went and got Christian Walker and Isaac Paredes, but Nato already vetoed a trade there. And it would surprise me if they're still interested in making a deal. It was different because Bregman was part of their, organization for quite a long time. So bringing him back, they're probably willing to do a little more to get him back. Nato, a totally different guy, already said no once. So I don't see them being somebody that's going to chase after him now. And then the Blue Jays, not on Arenado's list at all. The other teams on his list were the Angels, who just lost Anthony Rendon to an injury again. They did sign Yoan Moncada, but he's been hurt the last couple of years and hasn't really been all that good since 2021. The Phillies still have Alec Bohm at third base. The Padres got Manny Machado. The Dodgers made a slew of moves and have Max Muncy over at third. The Mets brought back Pete Alonso, so Vientos is going to go back over to third base. And the Sox just signed Bregman. So of these teams that were on the list that was reported, the Angels seem like the only spot where there's even a sliver of hope that there could be a deal at all. And the Angels, yeah, they got money. They've just spent it poorly a lot of times, but they've still got Mike Trout. They've brought in a lot of veteran guys already, and Jorge Soler, Kyle Hendricks, Travis d'Arnaud, Yusei Kikuchi, Moncada, who I brought up, Tim Anderson, and J.D. Davis have signed minor league deals with the Angels. So they haven't been shy about bringing in veterans, but do they need Nolan Arenado? I mean, they still got to pay Anthony Rendon. It's not like that money just goes away. Like, they still are on the hook for that. And they're paying Moncada $5 million. Yeah, they did the Cardinals a solid a few years ago when they took Dexter Fowler, although the Cardinals had to pay for most of the rest of that contract. But that doesn't seem like it's going to be something the Angels are interested in, does it? So unless Arenado opens up the list of teams that he's willing to go to, he might just be a St. Louis Cardinal in 2025. I feel like that's where we're heading. We're going to discuss the team that has been brought up a lot that wasn't on his list or attached to Bregman, but some feel could be a good fit. We'll talk about them next on Locked On Cardinals. Looking for a snack that is both delicious and nutritious? Then crack into a good source of protein with wonderful pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fuller longer. Now, I prefer the no shells variety. The only seed that I like is sunflower seeds that has a shell on it still. Everything else, specifically pistachios, I prefer the no shell variety because I like to just grab a handful, pop and go. Throw them down, go. As a guy that works out regularly, protein, obviously very, very important part of my diet, always trying to get more protein. And if you're going to snack, you'll want to snack the right way. You don't want to grab something that's bad for you, and that's why wonderful pistachios are perfect. They make it super easy to not only get the quick protein boost that I need, but also provides all 9 essential amino acids. So get snacking and get cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. Thank you again for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen every day. Leave your comments on YouTube as well as on Twitter X anytime you want. That feedback always welcome and encouraged. The situation with Arenado has been extremely annoying. I understand this. It's been that way for everyone involved. I posted a poll question on X yesterday. Who do you think this has been more frustrating for, Nolan Arenado or John Mozeliak? And Arenado won that vote. Most people thought it's been more frustrating for Nolan Arenado. I know it's been frustrating for everybody, and fans are sick of hearing about it, and I get it, but it is the number one story. We get a lot of comments about, can we talk about something else? Can we move on from this? I get it. I really wish there has been some finality to all of this already, but it hasn't, so it continues to be the number one story for the St. Louis Cardinals, not only locally, but nationally. Anything involving the Cardinals is not about Jordan Walker or Nolan Gorman or Eric Fetty or any of this stuff. It is about Nolan Arenado. He's the biggest name. He's the highest paid guy on the team. And until something happens, this is going to be a topic of discussion. That's just going to be something that we have to talk about. To ignore it would be silly. So let's discuss the team that many feel is another good spot for Arenado, and that's the New York Yankees. Paul Goldschmidt went to New York, right? We know how tight they are. That would make sense for him to want to be there with him. Their current third base options in New York, Jazz Chisholm Jr., very good player. Obviously, exciting guy, can play a lot of different positions. Many believe he's going to be their starting second baseman now. DJ LeMahieu is going to be 37 years old, which kind of caught me off guard. I'm like, oh my gosh, DJ LeMahieu's 36, going to be 37 this year. OPS of 51 last year in 67 games. We're a few years removed of the LeMahieu, who was, one of those guys who could lead the league in hitting each year. And then there's Oswaldo Cabrera, who in 2 full seasons has never had an OPS plus over 87. Seems like they could use an upgrade at third base, right? Again, we talk about places Nolan Arenado would be excited to play, a team that's got tradition and is usually a contender. The New York Yankees check those boxes, right? But some cold water thrown on that idea. ESPN's Buster Olney posted on X that Nolan Arenado moves to the forefront in the third base market now that Bregman is off the board, but the Yankees have not been engaged in conversations with the Cardinals about him. Ken Rosenthal was on Foul Territory today and says that the Yankees really have shown no real interest in trying to get Nolan Arenado in a Yankee uniform. John Denton, who covers the Cardinals for MLB.com, posted any interest the Yankees have in trading for Nolan Arenado was tied to New York being able to offload Marcus Stroman, a connection reported by MLB.com since mid-December. That remains true today, with the Yankees still evaluating the cost of a potential Arenado acquisition. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean Stroman has to go to the Cardinals as the return. That's not exactly what that means. It means that they would have to get rid of Stroman to take on the salary of Nolan Arenado. That's what they would prefer to do. Now, Stroman showed up for his physical on Tuesday. Hasn't been around the first couple of days of workouts, but their manager, Aaron Boone, said he expects him in camp the next few days and pointed out that he isn't obligated to show up until February 22nd per the current CBA. So there shouldn't be any issues there. As far as, making a swap, the Cardinals really don't have a need for a Marcus Stroman right now, since they currently have, and I get it. It's spring. It's the beginning of spring training. Eventually pitchers are going to get hurt and stuff. But right now they've got a healthy stable of starting pitchers in Sonny Gray, Eric Fetty, Miles Michaelis, Andre Pallante, Steven Matz, Michael McGreevy. Those are your top six arms. And then, there's a pecking order behind them of guys that, you would like to see in the major leagues, guys like Gordon Graceffo and obviously Tink Hintz and Quinn Matthews. And obviously those are names that, they would love to see and open up an opportunity for, where if you brought in a Stroman, that would block a spot like that. The other thing is Stroman is set to make $18.3 million this year. That is certainly not something the Cardinals want to be a part of. He's also got a vesting option for 2026 for the same amount. Vesting option, for those of you who are unaware, is when, the deal becomes guaranteed. It would become a guaranteed 18.3 next year if he meets certain performance goals. So the Cardinals' motivation to move Nolan Arenado, there's two reasons, right? Number one, save money, right? That's something that they've been talking about, and cutting payroll and bringing things down a bit. And part two of that is to open up a spot for younger guys. Nolan Gorman really is what we're talking about. Most people believe that if an Arenado trade took place, Nolan Gorman would slide over to third base. Brendan Donovan and Thomas J.C. could be your second baseman. Mason Wynn, shortstop. Contreras, Burleson over at first base. There you go. You're set to go. But saving money is the number one reason, right? Like, that's the top priority of making a move like this. It is to save money, to get out from under a lot of the money that Arenado is owed over the next 3 years. So taking on a Stroman contract who worth 18.3 the next two doesn't really make a whole lot of sense for them, right? Ali and Mo have talked about the Nato situation over the last couple of days. Mo continues to stress that it's something that, sure, yeah, we're working on it. Both have said that if nothing happens, that Nolan Arenado is expected to show up on Sunday and report to camp on time to be a member of this St. Louis Cardinals team. About the awkwardness of it all with Arenado in camp after this entire offseason feels like it's been built around trying to get rid of him. Mo said on Wednesday, we're adults. Would it be awkward? I would imagine there would be a moment of awkwardness, but I still think he's a professional baseball player, and he's currently a St. Louis Cardinal. And we all understand once you are here, you're pushing forward. Would that mean trying to accomplish something during spring training? Possibly, but there are no guarantees at that point. Now, not too long ago, John Mozeliak spoke with some media, and Katie Wu and a bunch of other people have posted that John Mozeliak is quoted as saying, Nolan Arenado is likely going to be a part of our club at this point. And that's just where it seems to be trending. You run out of options with where he can go and where he wants to go. On the situation as far as being his manager and what things could look like in the clubhouse and with the team, Ali said, you operate as if he's coming to camp, and my conversations with Arenado up to this point have been exactly that. Until that changes, there is no reason to plan otherwise. So as we stand here today, we have pitchers and catchers here. We're focused on that. Once we get to the position players being here in a full camp, we'll address it. Ali was on with 101 ESPN the morning after this morning as well, which, by the way, have been doing a great job at spring training. So to you guys, I applaud you. I've definitely enjoyed the content. It's been really fun. It's nice to get to know some of these players and coaches as something other than just the ball player on the field. It's been cool. And they had a really good conversation with Ali Marmol this morning. So I encourage you to go check out the podcast for them as well, or their YouTube page, 101 ESPN, the morning after, and listen to that one because they had a good time with Ollie. They had a good time with Mo on Wednesday. Like it's a fun group that they got going on there. But when they talked about when Ollie brought, they asked Ollie, what's it going to be like if he's here or whatever, and he just said, sure, I'm sure there's something where, and I'm paraphrasing here, but like he'll address the team or whatever, but he doesn't foresee it being an issue. Like, it's not like he's going to come in and everybody's going to feel weird around him. Like, you talk about it, you bring it up, and then you move on. And the goal is to win more baseball games, and that's what Ali and this team is going to be focused on. Again, Bregman signing slides Arenado into the top spot. Any team's looking for a third baseman, so perhaps some momentum for a deal picks up at some point. But just the way these guys are talking about it, hearing what Mo said today, it doesn't sound like there's anything imminent at all. Things can change. There could be injuries during spring training. People could go down, and maybe then something pops up, and Arenado becomes somebody that people are after again. But as it stands right now on Thursday the 13th, it looks like Arenado is going to be a member of the St. Louis Cardinals this year. We're going to talk about the arbitration cases. That was some news that came down with Newt, Donnie, and Pallante. Those cases have been completed. We have the results. Plus, spring training telecast schedule was announced, and the local regular season telecast information was also released. We'll get into that next on Locked On Cardinals. Thank you for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen. Today, for your second listen, find Locked On MLB. Baseball guru Sully brings you a daily blend of humor and baseball, keeping you updated on all the teams during this offseason and in spring training. Find Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts. We are going to have a crossover with Sully at some point here in the near future. He mentioned it to us. We were all in a meeting the other day together, and he was like, if you guys are ready, let's do some crossover. So we'll have one with Sully here very, very soon. The results from the arbitration cases involving Lars Nootbaar, Brendan Donovan, and Andre Pallante were announced. And Newt and Pallante, congratulations to you, won their cases. While Donnie lost his. Newt will earn $2.95 million. The Cardinals had filed at $2.45. Pallante will earn $2.1 million. Cardinals filed at $1.925. Donnie will make $2.85 million after filing for $3.3. And I know the amounts seem insignificant. The difference between one and the other, they seem small, right? But it's a business. It's a business. And I try to remind people about this, that no company is actively trying to pay people more than the organization thinks they are worth. Like, think about it in your everyday life. You go in and like, dude, I'm really good at my job. I would like a raise. And what do your bosses normally tell you? Yeah, well, let's see what happens in 6 months or something like that. Like, no company is trying to just give away more money. They just don't want to do that, okay? They're a business. They're trying to make money too, all right? Players will always try to get more than they probably should, just like you would as an employee. Like, you're always like, well, I would like this. And what do? You always say an amount that's more than what you really need, but you always just, okay, it doesn't hurt to ask, right? So Donnie made $1.181 million last year. So he's getting a significant bump. It's not like the things that he's done for this organization are not being rewarded, right? He's getting more than double what he was getting. He was asking for like triple, and he's getting more than double. Still a huge bump in salary. What you really hope is that nobody's feelings are hurt, because the arbitration process is stupid, where you have to sit there in front of Brendan Donovan and tell him, well, these are the reasons why we don't think you're good enough to make $3.3 million, and then point him out and make him feel like he's this big. Like, that's what sucks about this whole thing, right? It's just the process of it all is lame. Nobody seems to be a fan of it. I guess the new CBA, maybe they'll figure something out in 2026. I don't know. Clearly, Donnie is one who might feel slighted about it after losing his case. But when I polled the audience, when we announced that these arbitration cases were getting ready to take place, I asked, of the three people between Donovan, Nootbaar, and Pallante, which one do you feel like deserves an extension? And the overwhelming winner was Brendan Donovan. He garnered 80.3% of the vote, which is huge. Newt was second at 13.5, and then Pallante at 6.3. Most feel that Donnie has earned an extension with Gold Glove caliber defense, his steady bat. And it's hard to argue against those things. I agree. So maybe they'll get something done at some point. He still has arbitration eligible years left. He's got 2 of those. So if he continues to be really, really good, obviously he's going to continue to make more money. Sometimes teams will give an extension out. That way it eats up the final arbitration years. That way it doesn't continue to escalate. They just come to an agreement on a deal, and maybe something like that will get done. The one thing that I would say is that the Cardinals at this moment have a lot of infielders coming up. You know, you're talking about Gorman. You still got Nato on this team. You got Wynn. You got Sajasi. You've got J.J. Weatherholt coming through here real soon. You know, there's some guys there that are going to need to be playing every day. So if Brendan Donovan's not on your infield, are you just going to make him an outfielder the whole time? That's where I think kind of you're like, you know, do we get an extension for him? We all love Donnie. The Cardinals love Donnie. His teammates love him. It's not about him. It's about, all right, well, where's this future going to go? And how are these young players who are coming up, how is that going to impact what they want to do with Brendan Donovan as he gets older? Newt made $761,000 last year, which is crazy low, right? Considering what ball players normally make. So he's going up big time with his raise. Also has 2 years of arbitration left. Clearly, the thing with Newt, can he stay healthy? If he can, he's somebody obviously the Cardinals want to keep. Then there's Andre Pallante, $875 last year. So another significant boost, $2.1 million for him. 3 years of arbitration left for Andre Pallante. Again, show me, can you do this again? Show me, can you do this again? So big years for all 3 of these guys coming up. Moving on to spring training schedule. The Cardinals have announced that fans will be able to catch all 31 of the club's spring contests on either FanDuel Sports Network, KMOX 1120 AM, Cardinals Radio Network affiliates, or streaming via the MLB app or Cardinals.com. FanDuel Sports Network will televise 12 spring training contests in 2025. The television home of the Cardinals kicks off its live game coverage on Sunday, February 23rd, when the Cardinals host the Houston Astros at Roger Dean Chevrolet Stadium at noon. That'll be the Nolan Arenado revenge game. I don't want to go with you guys. No, I'm kidding. I don't know. Chip Carey, Tom Ackerman, and Alexa Datt will handle the play-by-play duties, while Brad Thompson and Mark Sweeney will serve as the analyst. The team's March 4th contest against the Mets will be broadcast nationally on ESPN. 4 additional Cardinal spring games are scheduled to be televised by opposing teams and will be streamed on MLB.tv. The team's flagship radio station, KMOX 1120 AM, will broadcast 15 spring games with John Rooney, Ricky Horton, and Mike Claiborne behind the microphone. The radio schedule begins with the club's Grapefruit League opener at Miami on Saturday, February 22nd. Now, onto the TV package. Dan Caesar at STLtoday.com reports that the Cardinals' local telecasts will be sold directly to fans for the first time this season, and that some of the pricing structure has now been set. Viewers in the team's television territory will be able to purchase the productions via streaming, either monthly for $19.99 or yearly at 12 months for a grand total of $189.99. Pricing for the full baseball season has not yet been unveiled. Packages will be sold through FanDuel Sports Network, which remains the Cardinals' regional telecaster under a restructured deal as it emerges from bankruptcy and encompasses additional programming, including Blues games. You can read the entire article at STLtoday.com to get even more information about it. But that's kind of the gist of everything right now. Big question, will Nato be on this roster on opening day? I would assume that he will be at this point. Not that that's a bad thing either. I mean, we're talking about one of the greatest third basemen of our generation, you know, of this last, 10, 15 years of baseball. Nolan Arenado's been the cream of the crop. And perhaps, and this is me thinking positive, that an angry, motivated Nolan Arenado might be a good thing. Maybe instead of trading him to rejuvenate his career, maybe this sparks him a little bit more. Not that he really needs it, because it's not like the guy doesn't work hard all the time, but you know, maybe this is another one of those things where, hey, you're going to slight me, I'll show you guys. And hopefully that's the player the Cardinals get. if he does remain at third base for the team. Thank you for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen every day. If you haven't already, give us a follow on Twitter, X, at @LO_Cardinals, and at JD Sports Radio. You can like and subscribe on YouTube, help our channel and our love for the Cardinals grow. You guys are the best fans in baseball for a reason. It is exciting to have spring training finally here. Thank you for being a part of Locked On Cardinals.